Thank you, Mr Mayor. On the weekend of the 10th and 11th of October, a large tree was felled by council contractors in the grounds of Cemetery Lodge in Ouston Road. The residents did not have prior warning, and it seems that the contractors had little regard for observing good health and safety practices. They were also reported as using abusive language to those who asked what they were doing. It was done over a weekend when no one at the council could be contacted for clarification of permissions granted. The contractors had blocked the vehicle exit gate and the pedestrian entrance, with no alternative routes being signed. In the short while I was there, several people needed directing to the alternative entrance. Also, it is not best practice to fell trees just before a planning application is submitted. Why was the work carried out at a weekend when most people visit family graves? Why was there no prior consultation with residents so that they knew what was going to happen? And why is this area not being considered as used for additional cemetery space, as it is an ideal location to deal with some of the shortage of burial space in the borough? Thank you.
Councillor Roy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, the beech tree at Alston Road was felled over the weekend of the 10th and 11th, as has been said. Did not have a tree preservation order on it. Was removed due to disease. The removal was therefore outside of the planning consultation and was not mandatory. That said, notification about the exit road being out of use and the tree being removed was given via A3 laminated notices, cable tied to the rails on each side of the exit gates. This was done week commencing the 5th of October. In terms of the entrance gate, this remained unobstructed. The reason why the tree was felled over the weekend was due to there was being no funerals over that period. The day was a very emotive day, and I understand, I wasn't there, but I do understand that the contractors and the bystanders did get into heated conversations. That said, a letter has been sent to the contractor advising them that they are representatives of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council. His behaviour and that of his operatives reflect on Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council, and that in future instances they should remain polite and respectfully, with any difficulty, refer them to the officers. In respect to the health and safety, current process for any contractor being added to our ordering system requires the contractor to provide a valid copy of their insurance cover and a completed copy of our health and safety questionnaire. This is then assessed by the risk management and insurance officer, and in this case this was carried out. Prior to the work starting on site, the contractor also produced a method statement and a risk assessment on the morning starting the work, so prevailing weather conditions could be taken account of. However, if it is found that any practices resulting from poor health and safety on site were implemented by the contractor, this will be addressed directly with them, and consideration will be given whenever they are used in future projects. The land has been considered for cemetery use, but its current condition, and only 20% of the land is suitable, so we still need a site that can accommodate the whole of Nuneaton's burial needs and the borough's burial needs. And at this moment in time, that is Marston Lane. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I should have mentioned before I started, because of the length of the questions for both public participation and members, I will not be asking for supplementaries tonight. Will I invite Margaret Pomfret to ask her a question?
I've heard that the government is proposing to make changes to the way that housing is financed. As a cabinet member responsible, tell us please how this is going to affect the plans that the borough has to build further homes to ease the situation for the massive number of local people who are looking for somewhere decent to live. Thank you.
Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Mrs Pomfret, for your question this evening. With the introduction of self-financing for the Housing Revenue Account in April 2012, and the payment of over £71 million to central government. The promise to us was of new freedoms and flexibilities to manage our own housing stock. However, since then, there have been continued changes by government, particularly around rent guidance, which have impacted on the finances of the housing revenue account and its ability to meet its business plan targets. The Council has managed these changes by identifying efficiency and other savings so that it can maintain and improve the high level of services provided to tenants, improving their homes and adding to its stock by building new properties. However, the latest announcements from government cannot easily be accommodated, and some significant changes to the HRA business plan have been considered to ensure it is viable in the short and longer term, and its services can be maintained where possible. Changes were announced again in July 2015 without any warning, whereby social housing landlords were told that they must decrease their rents by 1% per year for the next 4 years, from 2016 to 2020. This one change has removed over £200 million over the life of our business plan in rental income and investment interest. As we'd assumed, the rent increases over this period were in line with the previous government guidance. Clearly, this has a huge impact on our ability to finance the building of badly needed new homes in our borough. In addition to this, the government has announced that it will be extending the right to buy to housing association tenants. In order to do this, stock retaining councils, like Nuneaton and Bedworth, will be forced to make a lump sum upfront payment to government. The payment will be based on a government formula at the home's value at market level, and high value will be determined by the government on a local rather than a regional or county basis. To fund this, we will be either required to sell high value homes, remember we just bought them for over 70 odd million quid, but we'll be required to sell them, and give money back to government when they become void. As we have not yet been given the actual details of this initiative, it is impossible to put a figure on how much we will lose from the HRA, but this is a huge additional impact for us to face. This also represents a potential disincentive to build new homes, as these are the homes that are likely to be higher value and thus subject to the sale under the government policy, or attract a payment to government. We could be building new homes using our own finances, which we are then forced to sell or make a further payment for, passing the money back to central government to fund the extension of the right to buy for housing association tenants. I don't think that makes much sense. The government has also confirmed its intention to enforce the Pay to Stay initiative, whereby households with a taxable income, we're talking households here, of over £30,000 will be required to pay market rent for their home. The difference between market rent and social rent will be paid over to government. Housing associations will be required to implement this measure, but they will be able to retain the difference. We will be required to pay it back to government, even if we're not able to collect it. There are a number of other challenges as a result of changes in government policy, which will impact on the financial viability of the HRA. These include welfare reform changes, including further reduction of the benefit cap and restrictions on housing benefit for 18 to 21 months. In addition to a review of lifetime tenancies. All these changes will put further added burdens on resources within the housing revenue account, which may detract from our ability to build new homes. We're planning ahead, though, to try and meet these challenges and rescheduling our debt repayments, making efficiency savings of over 100k over the next 5 years, and we have had to reduce our capital programme by 500k a year in 2020. Further options are also being considered, but quite frankly, housing is under attack from changes in government policy. I think Mrs. Pomfret makes a valid point. We have a huge housing need in our borough. at the moment, central government is not helping us to meet it. Thank you, Mr.
Could I invite Margaret Shum to read her statement, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My surname is Shown.
Shown.
Thank you. As an established community, residents and businesses in East Nuneaton feel totally let down by this council's decision to use the call for site criteria to identify land at East Borough Way as being suitable for gypsies and travellers. Our community say council have handled this process in a very secretive manner and have overestimated the figures. A local newspaper actually brought this matter to the attention of the public when concerns were rightly highlighted by a report printed 2 weeks after publication of the Borough Plan, which left 4 weeks for the community to respond. In identifying the needs of gypsies and travellers and the overwhelming fact that many, if not all, have no affiliation whatsoever to Nuneaton, we feel that the council are practising reverse discrimination against the already established council tax-paying community. The Borough Plan submission document highlights many instances whereby the council are not meeting their own requirements. For example, council say evidence from local communities and others with an interest in the future of the borough. Residents say we feel our views are being totally disregarded. Council say traffic congestion is high, with Nuneaton having one of the highest levels of traffic density in Warwickshire during peak times. Residents say East Borough Way, although not specifically mentioned, suffers a knock-on effect that impacts just as much. Council say fear of crime and actual crime is the highest in Warwickshire. The borough also has the highest levels of antisocial behaviour. Residents say we have welcomed people from all over the world to our town, but historically the general public are fearful of gypsies and travellers. The council has a duty of care to its citizens, and the LGA guide acknowledges council's principal services must include community safety and environmental health, which are amongst our concerns. Many feel our safety and security and that of our homes and businesses would be placed at a much higher risk having this site in our vicinity, whether this fear is real or not. This area is deemed to be a good place to live, and current house prices reflect this. We are assured our property values would not be affected by the introduction of a gypsy and travellers site. Residents ask council to provide us with the exact source of the studies on which this assumption is based, as there appears to be some conflicting information being supplied by council officers. Thank you.
It was more of a statement than a question, but is there anything you want to respond to, Councillor?
I'll make a brief statement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Consultation is obviously at a very early stage currently with the gypsy and traveller sites. I have to say that the Cabinet on the 30th of September agreed this report to go forward, so I don't think it was done in secret, it was done in the open, members of the public were there, it was agreed at that meeting. Under the Equality Act, the Council is subject to and takes its responsibilities very seriously. The Public Sector Equality Duty. The duty requires the Council to eliminate discrimination, advance equality of opportunity and foster good relations between different groups. Gypsies and travellers are covered under legislation and the Council has an obligation to meet their needs. The government requires the Council to identify the needs of gypsies and travellers and then plan to meet those needs. A Gypsy and Traveller Accommodation Assessment, or a GTAA, has been undertaken independently of this Council, which identifies targets which need to be accommodated within the borough. Having completed the study, we are now consulting on potential sites to ensure that the target is met. The GTAA is available to view on the Council's website as part of the consultation. If there are any other further concerns, though, Mr. Mayor, I would just urge everyone to involve themselves in the consultation process and write to the Head of Planning Policy. Thank you.
Alan Baxter, please.
I've been following the cemetery situation in Nuneaton with much interest. I'm interested in what Councillor Lloyd said to the Nuneaton News the other week, that land for burial purposes has to meet very strict and specific criteria. And I'm wondering if you could tell us here and now in this meeting what the criteria are, please. Also, how many landowners or pockets of land have been put forward to council for consideration since the furore surrounding the proposed use of playing fields for burials? My own basic calculation for the land required to contain appropriate burials for the town's current population is between 30 and 40 acres. Could you outline to us how the borough plan process, currently under consultation, has provided for this provision, as it seems to identify only 2 hectares at Marston Lane? That's about 4.8 acres, if you convert it. This is in Bedworth, and that's already allocated. Is there any explanation as to why the borough plan developments are so heavily slewed towards housing on greenfield sites, without there being a single new cemetery site identified amongst them? Thank you.
Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, all new land is subject to phase 1 and phase 2 assessment as required by the Environmental Agency to determine the land's suitability for burial purposes. This process takes at least 12 months to go through. We have to put boreholes in. We have to monitor those boreholes over a 12-month period to see if there's what the water levels are within those boreholes. We also have to look at previous uses of the land, the flooding potential, where it lies in relationship to open water sources, its location in relation to adjacent properties, the land designation, i.e. is it greenbelt, for instance. The National Planning Policy Framework has changed the status of cemeteries as far as the greenbelt is concerned. The NPPF now requires the council to demonstrate very special circumstances to justify inappropriate development in the green belt. This means that if the council can show very special circumstances, planning permission can be granted for the use. If the Environmental Agency confirms that the site is suitable, we will have to promote the planning application and provide supporting evidence to address the NPPF criteria. We have had no landowners come forward with any land. The local plan team reviewed the number of sites and identified some potential cemetery sites. However, because the owners have put them forward for housing development, the council is unlikely to persuade any of them to voluntarily transfer their land. There is a potential for a compulsory purchase order, but the potential costs are huge, and there is no guarantee at the end of it, once we've purchased that land, that it's going to be fit for purpose. The council relies on land being identified, brought forward by the landowners for cemetery use. Whilst the borough plan has not formally approved land, landowners that may wish to dispose of land have a hope value in making it available for housing development. This is because they get a much greater value for development land as they would for cemetery. To give in context, Austin Road is 16 acres, 6 hectares, and has been used for the last 140 years. Given current burial trends and the move towards more cremations, in excess of 70%, the 2 hectares proposed at Marston Lane should offer 60 years more future burial space. I hope that answers all the questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Peter Everett, please. No? I don't know, I haven't got a first name for this. KJ Rose.
That's me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too like to make a statement on the proposals for the Gypsy Travel site on Peterborough Way. Whilst whilst recognising that a Borough Council has to reconcile a number of difficult and sometimes confusing requirements, I too would like to draw attention to the concern of residents over this proposal, which is now at the consultation stage. This concern is prompted not by self-interest, but by concern for the future of the town as a place in which to live and work. The location of the site is inappropriate and totally insensitive. Putting this site next to the crematorium is totally insensitive to the feelings of grieving families, especially if funeral traffic is mixed in with caravans arriving and leaving the site using the Heart of England way. We are told that there's a lack of cemetery space in the borough, and accordingly it seems very likely that the use of the crematorium can only increase. This is an issue for the whole of the community and not just for local residents. The site could not be more visible. The proposed site is on one of the busiest roads in Nuneaton, and the traffic can only increase as new housing developments off the Longshoot are finalised. The road services the adjacent industrial estate, which is an important source of employment and is identified in the borough plan as needing to be maintained and improved. Added to this, East Borough Way is used regularly as an emergency route when there are traffic issues on the A5 or the M6. The site does not integrate well into the surrounding urban area. At stage 2 of the assessment process, the planning department said the site should not be considered for use as a gypsy and part of the site because it could not be considered to be well integrated into the existing urban area of Nuneaton. At stage 3 of the assessment of sites, the same comment was made, but the conclusion was reversed, and the site was then recommended because, in the words of the document, it might encourage further development east of East Borough Way. There's no evidence been put forward to substantiate this point. The borough plan submission map does not show any proposed housing or proposed employment sites east of East Borough Way. Far from encouraging development, the proposal effectively blights adjacent sites and, importantly, will not encourage new business to the Attleborough Fields industrial estate. Furthermore, it seems reasonable that any developer of new housing would think twice before investing in a site with such a detriment. For all these reasons, I think the proposal is ill-advised. The Council promotes Nuneaton and Bedworth as the place of choice to live, work and visit. I suggest that this proposal totally undermines that aspiration and will act as an indictment on this Council for the future and undo all the good work it has worked so hard to achieve. The proposal should be withdrawn.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to add to that, Councillor Woodley? You answered it before.
Very similar to
Mr. Mayor, I wish to use the constitutional provision to refer this matter to the overview and scrutiny panel. As the local ward member, I can guarantee to this council that this is a burning topic and deserves much more thorough investigation of gypsy and traveller provision. And I think the residents who will be affected deserve that at the very least from this council.
Matter referred to ONS. Any comments? Yes, Councillor Woodley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If they'd have been involved in the Borough Plan Working Party, they could have raised it then.
So speak the political.
He knows the reason because they're stitching it up.
Excuse me, let's not start. It's too early before we go into this. Right, is there a second if you're closed? Thank you. So I'll move in a second. Straight to the vote.
We call the recording vote.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I will read out the names of each.
Recording vote, sure.
Oh, there's three.
There's three.
Mr. Mayor, I'll read out the names of each member in alphabetical order. I will indicate if they are for or against the motion. Councillor Alvington.
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask a question before we go move to the
Yep.
vote, please? Mr. Mayor, are we being asked to vote on whether or not the consultation that we're currently proposing comes back to an ONS, or are we being asked to vote on whether or not we should have any gypsy and traveller sites in the borough? I'm a bit confused.
The way I understood the motion to work was that removal wants it to go to ONS now before the consultation is completed.
No, Mr Mayor, that isn't the intention. The two can be done at the same time. You can consult at the same time and scrutinise what's going on as well. There's no reason to stop the consultation, which has taken this long to get here anyway.
You get into a situation where you're actually going through an ONS procedure prior to or during the consultation. I'm not quite sure how clever it is. Okay. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I don't want to get into too much debate about this. It's got to go straight to the vote. My advice is it goes straight to the vote. Please sit down. Please sit down. Please sit down. Please sit down. I'll make it clear to you.
Point of order.
Yes.
My point of order is I will not know exactly what I'm voting on. I'm here representing people in this borough. I represent my ward, but I also represent the whole borough as well. That's how I see my role. I cannot vote if I do not know exactly what I'll be voting for or against.
What you're voting on is that a debate will take place at ONS whilst the consultation is going on. Correct? Thank you. Right. We're going to go straight into it. Alan, please.
Mr Mayor, I will read out the names of each member in alphabetical order who will indicate if they are for or against the motion outlined. Councillor Alden. Abstain. Councillor Beaumont.
Abstain.
I'm against him. Councillor Bennett. The reason I can't explain.
It's not in your ward. Yeah.
Councillor Bonner.
For
Councillor Coughlin.
against for reasons I could explain.
Councillor Doherty.
I'll say
Councillor Doughty.
Against.
Councillor Elliott.
Against.
Councillor Foster. Councillor Fowler.
Against.
Councillor Glass.
against.
Councillor Grant, apologies. Councillor Hancock.
Against, not allowed to explain.
Councillor Harvey.
Against.
Councillor Hawkes.
Against.
Councillor Haynes.
Against.
Councillor Hickling.
Against.
Councillor Jackson.
Against, sorry.
Councillor Condaka.
For.
Councillor Tony Lloyd.
Against.
Councillor Ian Lloyd.
Against.
Councillor Longden.
Against.
Councillor Margrave.
Against.
Councillor Navarro, apologies. Councillor Caroline Phillips.
Abstain.
Councillor Neil Phillips.
Against.
Councillor Pomfret.
Against.
Councillor Jill Shepherd.
Abstain.
Councillor Tracy Shepherd.
Abstain.
Councillor Tandy.
Abstain.
Councillor Roman Taylor, apologies. Councillor Tromans.
For.
Councillor Watkins.
Abstain.
Councillor Wilson.
For.
The motion is lost. Right, questions by members. I've got 13 questions on the book, so please don't.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, I think there are more questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor.
More public questions.
Sorry, John. Sorry?
There are more questions from the public gallery, I believe.
Not on my list.
You said 6, and I think I counted 5.
You weren't notified that we wouldn't be able to speak, and
Yeah, Mr. Everett didn't turn up.
I'm going to speak, Mr Grant's going to speak.
No.
We were not informed that we would not be able to
Sorry,
speak.
not on my list.
Well, that's
Councillor Glass, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Can the cabinet member finally develop and tell us the arrangements, if any, are in place to provide any free parking in our health centres when they run up to Christmas?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I can tell Councillor Glass that there is provision for free parking across the borough in the council car parks on the run up to Christmas. As we've done over many years, we are currently offering free parking all day on a Sunday in December until Christmas. This started on the 6th of December and will run until the 27th, meaning people from across the borough and beyond can shop in our towns for free on normally very busy retail days, both before and after Christmas.
Councillor Hancock, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There was a similar question asked earlier by a member of the public to the housing establishment, quite in relation to Mr Mayor, could the portfolio holder for planning and development give me his views on the latest proposal by the government who are planning to remove the affordable housing quotas, not my spelling my name, from planning applications to be replaced by so-called starter homes? Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Alderton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I thank Councillor Hancock for his question? It's a very important question. By way of context, Mr Mayor, it might be useful to fill members and members of the public who are still here in on the background to this. The Housing and Planning Bill will introduce a statutory duty on all local authorities to promote the delivery of starter homes to buy, and a requirement for a proportion of starter homes to be delivered on all suitably, reasonably sized housing developments. As usual, with many planning policies this government has introduced, the details are still very much unclear. At present, the policy in the adopted plan and in the current round of consultation delivers affordable housing, normally in the form of rented accommodation or shared ownership as a percentage of the dwellings of the site. The provision of starter homes will severely affect this, as the guidance might suggest that the provisions have to be for starter homes and not for affordable housing. It's quite clear, Mr Mayor, that this government wants to abolish affordable housing, particularly affordable rented housing, in favour of people having to buy their own homes. This assumes two things, Mr Mayor. The first, that people want to own their own homes, and the second, that they can afford to buy their own homes. In my opinion, it's nothing short of social cleansing. Many of us were born into or raised in council houses, and we know this government are making it almost impossible for councils to build any substantial council housing, as Councillor Jackson's already outlined today. Despite our best efforts, Mr Mayor, on that, and you will have seen yourself the superb council houses recently completed in your order. This leaves social housing, which they are equally determined to smash in favour of either people becoming homeless or having to live, in some instances, substandard private rented accommodation, probably owned by their millionaire mates.
Can I ask, whilst these questions, can I ask to stop this other meeting going on in the public gallery, please?
Well, I think probably if you'd allowed the chap to speak when he requested to have not been told he couldn't,
there is a procedure for speakers,
and
it's on my list.
If you don't follow it,
It's not. The names were not on my list.
That's not his.
I explained
he
that.
wasn't told he couldn't speak.
Well, so
That's your problem, not his.
it's not my problem
Yes,
at all.
it is.
No,
You're
it's
the leader of this room.
No,
This
it's
is
not
your
my
problem.
It's not my problem. I'm not
Yes,
going to
it
argue with you.
is. It's your problem.
Nobody's
He wasn't
there.
told
Nobody
he
else is
couldn't
there to
speak.
speak. That's the end of the story. Now, if you,
No.
you need to have another meeting, please do it outside.
No,
Don't do
we
it
came
in here.
here to have a meeting.
Councillor Caroline Phillips, please.
The gentleman over there came in here
Will you
to have a
please be
meeting.
quiet?
No.
Mr Mayor, please may I make a point of order?
Came to here to have a meeting and wasn't told he couldn't.
Can I make a point of order,
If
please?
you do not be quiet, sir, I'll ask you to leave.
Can I?
No, thank you. I've explained the situation. Nobody else
Let him
is on the
speak.
list.
Let him speak. He hasn't been told
No.
he can't speak.
He's not on the list. If you don't be quiet, I'll please ask you.
How do you get on the list? We obeyed all the rules. We submitted our questions.
Well, it's not down
At
here.
12 o'clock yesterday.
Right, I'm sorry, but it's not on my list, and therefore
Well, you
it's
need
not.
to
How
figure
was
out
that
who does
listed
your
Will you
list.
be quiet now,
No.
please?
You need to go and sort out.
If
who
you're not
does your
going to be
list.
quiet, will you please leave?
Will you
Councillor
tell
Caroline
No point
Phillips,
being here,
please.
is there?
Will you then tell us, because see, I didn't speak, why I haven't
I am
allowed
not
to
going
speak?
to enter into this anymore.
I think you need to. I think you need to because it sounds
I'm not
like
going to. Caroline Phillips, please.
This is a question for the Cabinet Minister Central Services. A great deal of activity is currently taking place in relation to the movement of staff into the Town Hall and subsequently vacating the Council House. Could you please tell us if the plans for moving staff into this building are on track and what sort of savings will be made as a result of the move?
Councillor Pomfret, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Phillips, for the question. The plans for moving more employees into the Town Hall to allow the Council House to be vacated are indeed still on track. And the Borough Council is getting ever near to achieving its plans to become a more agile and efficient organisation in terms of our working practices. A great deal of work to reconfigure offices, build a new server room, create new ladies' toilets and build a new meeting room suite in the town hall have taken place over the summer and autumn. I am pleased to say all these works were completed on time with very little disruption to the everyday operation of the town hall and the general public visiting here. In terms of getting all the work done on time, much credit must go to all of the employees currently working in the town hall for the way they have embraced the changes and done what was needed to move between offices in the planned timescales. In tandem with the building works, an enormous amount of work has taken place on our IT infrastructures and the procurement of suitable equipment for employees to use. We now have a new, robust and much faster Wi-Fi network covering the whole of the town hall, even in here and the committee room A, I'm told. And the finishing touches are being made to our WAN and the equipment in the new server rooms in the town hall and the civic hall. We are currently testing and refining the software setups for the various devices that will be issued to employees early in the new year. Mr. Mayor, our move to agile working, part of which will allow us to vacate the council house early next year, will mean we will make approximately £2 million worth of savings in the next 10 years. Plus, perhaps, just as importantly, reap the operational benefits of an up-to-date, fit-for-purpose technology programme that will allow us to further improve our services to the residents of the borough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Beaumont, please.
My question, Chairman, is for the Cabinet Member for Health and Environment. The District Council Network commissioned a report from the King's Fund. Would the Cabinet Member for Health and Environment like to comment on the conclusions?
Councillor Phillips, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much, Councillor, for the question. The report here, 68 pages, considers the contributions of the Borough and District Council to the public health agenda. It recognises that good health is dependent upon many factors other than healthcare, and importantly, the councils carry out many functions as part of their day-to-day activities, which are key to supporting improved health in our communities. The report identifies numerous services that councils, such as ourselves, provide. These include preventing homelessness, delivering disabled adaptations, enforcing higher housing standards in the private sector, the provision of leisure facilities and green spaces, environmental health services such as dealing with noise, nuisance and food hygiene, economic development, planning, working with the community. Mr. Mayor, the report details 10 recommendations and I am broadly supportive of the recommendations made. However, it would be prudent of me to point out that our council is ahead of the game, certainly not in Warwickshire. We were the first borough council to produce a corporate health offer to support the aims of the Warwickshire Health and Wellbeing Strategy. We also recently launched our Healthier Communities grant scheme in partnership with Public Health to reflect local issues highlighted in the Joint Strategic Assessment. Over the past 4 years, and this is prior to the Health and Wellbeing Strategy, we have been in partnership with the British Heart Foundation to become a heart town. Thank you, Councillor Watkins. We have supported Healthy Living Network to work in our disadvantaged communities to support improvements in men's and maternal health as well as weight management to improve overall health. In fact, at one point we kept the Healthy Living Network afloat. You know, and it's all to their power now that they're able to stand on their own 2 feet. But this is the thing that the councils do. We brought the sports development team in house last year, and their key objectives are underpinned with the goal of facilitating improvements to health for all ages with physical activity and engagement with the community. Mr. Mayor, over 10% of our workforce have undertaken making every contact count training, aiming to ensure that all relevant officers are able to identify and support residents to access support to improve their health and well-being. We have invested in installing green gyms in 4 of our open spaces and delivered guided activities on those gyms, which is a proven health saving further on down the line. We encourage developers to provide quality open spaces as part of any new housing development. This council has restored measured miles within the borough, such as Bailey Park, to encourage increased physical activity. We work with many partners to deliver National Alcohol Week activities, which included licensing visits to premises to reinforce their requirements and raise awareness more locally. We have formed a partnership with Public Health, the CCG and North Warwickshire Borough Council to create the Northern Health and Wellbeing Partnership. This gives us the opportunity to influence some of the key commissioning decisions of the CCG, such as the provision of urgent care services. And on top of all this, Mr. Mayor, that this is what this public protection, health and safety, all the things that this council undertakes on behalf of its residents. This is how a Labour council delivers. I could take an hour more to let you know everything that we do at Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council. We do every day to support improvements to health and well-being. And this corporate approach is embedded through our Innovative Officer Health Champions Group. And I don't know of any other council, in Warwickshire at least, that has this group. But the wider point, Mr. Mayor, is that with the drastic funding cuts, how much longer can we continue to deliver? The report highlights the savings district councils contribute to the NHS further down the line. The last Labour government recognised that fact by increasing the grant that was given to councils to include a ring-fenced allowance for health. This government just cut. After 6 years of a Tory government, the George Eliot apparently will be 16 million over budget by next April. Health inequalities are getting wider. The CCG in the north receives 210 million compared with 302 million in the south, with a better care fund allocation of 11 million in the north compared with 15 million in the south. What is the government going to do about it? Public Health Warwickshire lost 2 million in funding this year. Why, when every pound spent, according to the King's Fund, saves thousands of pounds down the line? It is poor health economics by a government that either does not care or is economically inept. But I suspect they're both regarding the health economy. If that was the case, the George Eliot, they were so good, the George Eliot would not find itself almost £16 million over budget by the end of April. Returning to the recommendations in the report, Mr. Mayor, as I said, this Labour-run council is ahead of the game. I am proud of the officers and directors who go the extra mile to embed health into our policies, and I have asked my officers to please further hear the health champions and report back to me regarding the recommendations in this report. Money spent at this level saves the National Health Service thousands of pounds down the line. Further cuts to this council, and it's going to be so difficult to save that money for the National Health Service. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tandy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I have a question to ask of the Leader of the Council. In view of the negative comments by some opposition members in this council about the situation in our town centres, could the Leader please inform us how many council-owned shops, and I reiterate, council-owned shops, are vacant in the Nuneaton and Bedworth town centres? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'm pleased to be able to tell Councillor Tandy that none of the 18 council-owned shops in Nuneaton are vacant, and only one out of 36 council-owned shops in Bedworth is currently vacant. 1 out of 36. This healthy position has been achieved by refurbishments of older property and aggressive marketing by our estate staff, which shows the Council's commitment to our town centres. We shall continue, however, as a Council, to urge the private sector owners of empty properties in our town centres to market their shops as competitively as the Council has done with our own retail units, to set realistic rents and make a full contribution to the success of our towns. Could I also take this opportunity to welcome the new shops and businesses which have recently opened in both Bedworth and Nuneaton town centres, ranging from a hardware shop, travel agents, delicatessens in both towns, hairdressers, and even now a new sushi bar, quite a move up for Nuneaton and Bedworth, and a French crepe stand. So I would thank those shops, there are others too, Mr Mayor, but thank them for their faith in the future of our town centres. The council will be at your service for help and advice, and let's, in the future, Mr Mayor, concentrate on the positive.
Thank you. Councillor Haynes.
This is a question also for the leader. Will the leader tell the council how much finance Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough councils has lost in government grant since 2010? And what the percentage loss of grant income that represents?
Councillor Harvey.
Mr Mayor, the main source of funding the council receives from central government is revenue support grant, and it's used to support the delivery of services. Since the comprehensive spending review in 2010, the council has experienced unprecedented reductions in central funding of 4.5 million, or 44% between 2010 to 2015-16, 44%. Funding for 2016-17 and beyond remains uncertain, although further significant reductions are expected. Consultation on the grant for 2016-17 will be notified in the local government finance settlement, which is due later this month, which will give a clearer indication of the reduction in our grant for the next financial year. The latest budget assumption, Councillor Haynes, is a further reduction between 2015-16 and 2016-17 of 9%. This reduction in grant has contributed towards an estimated budget gap in the next financial year of over £1 million. Cabinet have already approved savings of £792,000, but the council must set a balanced budget each year, which we have always done by law, Mr Mayor, and therefore need to identify further savings of £403,000 based on the current information. The Chancellor's latest statements lead us to believe that new homes burners will be dramatically reduced, if not abolished altogether. Central grant will be phased out altogether by the end of this Parliament, the Chancellor said so, and further changes to business rates will also be made. We have already anticipated another budget gap of 400,000 for the year after, but the likelihood is that that situation may now be even worse. All in all, Councillor Haynes, we are continually being asked to do more and more as a local authority, with less and less resources from the government, leading eventually to getting nothing at all from central government by 2020.
Thank you. Councillor Hickling, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. A question for the Cabinet Member for Health and Environment. As the holiday approaches, many residents will be concerned about the Christmas and New Year refuse and recycling collections. Could a portfolio holder tell councillors and residents what arrangements have been made for this year's collections, and in particular, what advice will be given regarding recycling of Christmas cards and wrapping paper? Thank you.
Councillor Crooks.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Residents of the Borough will soon notice a Christmas information hang-up appearing through their letterboxes. You've got yours, Tony, which aims to keep residents' waste woes minimised over the festive period. But it's not Santa Claus making her delivery with the bin hangers. It's the council's multitasking refuse crews who are spreading the message to make sure that everybody knows when they leave their bins out over the festive season, as well as providing some handy recycling reminders. The hangers will be delivered to all households in the borough over a 2-week period starting next week. Thankfully, this year, Christmas Day and New Year's Day fall during the week. Plans are in place to keep as many collections as normal over the festive break in the bid to make life easier for residents. So fingers crossed about the weather, or those that might want a white Christmas. The only households affected would be those who are scheduled to fall on the 25th of December, and these will be collected on Sunday the 27th of December. And Friday the 1st of January, which will be instead collected on the Saturday the 2nd of January. All other collections will be staying exactly the same, and residents should present their bins as normal. However, residents are asked to note, however, that there will be no green bin collections between the 14th and 27th of December. That's 14th and the 27th of December, no green bin collections, but black and brown bin lid recycling bins will continue to be collected. You know, the yearly bin, if anyone wants to go to our website, there's a load of information there, it can be downloaded directly at Nuneaton and Bedworth gov.uk. Regarding cards and wrapping paper, it would be great to recycle the wrapping paper by reusing it, but it is poor quality, and the glue and everything that's in the paper, or the patterns, it will not be collected if we put it in the brown bin. Put it in the black bin. The same with cards, because of the glitter that's on cards, environmentally it's not recyclable, it's got a lot of glue in, it's the way they make the cards up. So again, there are other specialist outlets that will take these cards, use them. If not, put them in the black bin. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is to the Cabinet Member for Arts and Leisure. Could the portfolio holder for leisure tell the Council what sort of outreach work with local schools our museum and art gallery is currently involved in?
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is even more relevant now. They're currently involved with, I'm proud to introduce actually the latest project of a film that was produced as part of an outreach project by Nuneaton Museum and Art Gallery. The HNC levels creative media students from King Henry V College have been working very hard with professional animator artist Chris Bradley and members of the museum team to create a short animated film based on the concept of protest, something we can all learn from. Working to a tight and exciting brief, the participants have worked with the museum collections to gain inspiration for the film, learned how to model figures and design and create backdrops. They have discovered how to write, develop a script for their storyline, learnt the principles of stop motion photography, and practiced recording voices and sound effects for the film. There were 12 students involved in the project, aged 18 years old. The students attended a total of 7 workshops, amounting to 26 hours of teaching. The total cost of the project was £2,384.60, not the millions of pounds that we see on TV. The film is titled Little Brother. It's an original idea from students and shows how an individual might find their voice when making protest.
We tried.
The film forms a centrepiece of a new exhibition focusing on the history of protest, which you can see on the landing gallery at the Museum and Art Gallery until the 14th of February. The Museum and Art Gallery expects approximately 5,500 visitors to see the film during the exhibition alone, and I think there might be a few more now. The film has also been uploaded to the council's YouTube. The models created by the students will be recycled to form part of a further animation project at the college. The students were so inspired they are wanting to explore the concept even further. This gives the project a fantastic legacy. I can say, having watched the film and met the students and met Mr. Bradley, I am extremely proud of them and everyone that has helped. In my opinion, they should all receive an Oscar for this film, and hopefully it will be a huge hit on the YouTube. I can recommend everybody in this chamber to have a look at this film and learn some lessons from the protest and debate tonight. We should all take a look at where we are and what we can learn. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor? No, any questions?
I'm allowed to, Mr. Mayor, can you let me speak? Just a second. I'm allowed to request we extend the meeting by 3 hours. Can we take a vote? No, we're now going to allow.
No. Sit down, please. I'm doing questions at the moment. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question actually isn't political. It actually involves the health and well-being of all residents and the people in this room. I've asked them 2 or 3 times before. This is the latest. It's a situation that is becoming very, very serious across the whole country. The question is to Councillor Phillips. On the 23rd of November, the BBC Panorama programme covered the Volkswagen diesel scandal, diesel emissions. At the end of that programme, 2 professors, one the chair in environmental health at King's College London, and he's also the chair at COMIAP, who's quite better in a minute, and the other is chair of environmental health in Birmingham, who are both members of the COMIAP, which is the Government Committee on Medical Effects of Air Pollutants, gave their views on the extremely serious effects of 30 billion superfine particulates per hour entering the lungs of residents, one way or another, and causing blood clotting and various heart and lung complications, leading to sudden deaths. 29,000 deaths in the UK last year were put down to this cause. We approach the maximum levels in our air quality management areas, but in the surrounding areas the ambient data shows roughly half of that anyway, and it's those levels which are being requested by environmental groups as the new maximums. Central government is looking at this at the moment, but no new laws have been through yet, unfortunately. I understand that our key environmental officers attended a meeting in Birmingham on Monday of this week to get the latest information on this subject. Could the Cabinet Member for Health and Environment please give members an update so that this information can be properly considered as part of our current borough planning? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. I think the point was being made, and I was getting to the point myself. Bear in mind the speakers to questions or giving the answers that less is sometimes more, provided you don't lose ranges. Councillor Phillips.
Mr. Mayor. Anyway, yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I understand your question, I understand the integrity about it, I understand the continual drum beating in this council. I am totally concerned myself about the 2.5 particulate. However, we both know at the present moment in time that this is an issue that governmental departments have got to tackle. The event that took place on Monday was a free, open event. right, that anyone could have gone, because Councillor Hancock's actually went over, so you would have been able to go there yourself. I didn't know that time, and I don't know if you did. Regarding the panorama programme, I haven't actually seen it. However, I asked officers to watch it, and it's very subjective. In a point of issue that, and I'm not decrying this, that 29,000 deaths, right, in the UK last year were put down to PM 2.5. Right, this could be a misunderstanding of that statistic. PM 2.5, and I'm sure the council will agree with me, that often contributes to early death among people with pre-existing life-threatening conditions, and also has reduced the quality of life for many others. It on its own does not cause a death. It might accelerate, but I'm no scientist. You know, there are people and departments far higher than us that are scientists that should be doing this thing. In fact, the comments made in the programme by Professor Roy Harrison about the potential harmful health effects of the particles and their ability to be inhaled into the lungs is well known to air quality specialists, including the 19-member expert panel for the revised death row. Now, this expert panel has not produced a recent report or statement in respect to these particles, and neither have they suggested a reduction in the limit value of PM 2.5 at this moment. Right. This panel has indeed planned to consider the issue of longer-term exposure to PM 2.5 and mortality effects associated with short-term exposure to particulate matter in their work programme over the next 2 years. So, although we can keep banging the drum, they need to get on with the work. As regards to the statement regarding to the levels of air pollution in our 2 air quality management areas, I'd just like to clarify the position regarding these areas. Both were declared the measured exceedance of the nitrogen dioxide objective, but not for particular matter. The levels of nitrogen dioxide have been falling in recent years, although I do accept there is periods of time when it will go above, but they have been dropping overall. And there's also an argument now about how it's all measured. This debate will go on. I am concerned about PM 2.5. We all are, you know, but unfortunately, this council has very little to do, if anything, except work to government requirements. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr.
Mayor, I would like to ask
Councillor. No, I said no, it's going on for up to as long as we are now. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is to the Cabinet Member for Planning, Health and Environment, turns out it's going to.
Which one do you want?
I submitted to one, but it's gone to the other. Nuneaton and Bedworth is one borough, but we are also 2 towns. We have a long-standing practice of having cemeteries for both towns, so that bereaved families may bury their loved ones in their hometown. Given that the controlling Labour group have had years to come up with a solution, and have spent more time in pursuing unwanted gypsy and traveller sites in unsuitable locations, rather than more concerning issue to residents of cemetery provision, could the portfolio holder please explain when he will get his priorities right and provide a cemetery in Nuneaton? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We're going to ask Councillor Rules in future. No, sorry. Councillor Lawrence is trying to say yes.
Can I help with the confusion?
Yeah.
Cemeteries come under me, Councillor. I should know that. It's a priority, sorry. Okay. Councillor Wilson, you are fully aware we spent 2 years from 2011 having the land assessed at Eastborough Way for water levels across the site. I've explained in my previous statement, so I'm not going to go over that again, what that process is. This information was then sent to the Environmental Agency in December 2013. and we received a response from the Environmental Agency in February 2014, informing us that the land was not suitable for burial purpose and they wouldn't support any application on that site. This was reported to the OSP on the 20th of March 2014. A further report was presented to the OSP on the 22nd of October 2014, which outlined the potential options and how and what areas we looked at. This was when Attleborough Rec was discounted along with other recreational areas due to public outcry, as it would lead to the loss of valuable parkland. Marston Lane was then recommended by the Scrutiny Committee to be the sole cemetery, and Cabinet then confirmed the recommendation and gave a commitment that they would consider any land put forward in Nuneaton in the future. And if I remember right, one of his party, not very far away from him, voted for that. So we have continually worked to obtain land for cemetery use from 2011. We had a solution then, and now we have one now. The reference is to comments on the travellers' sites. We have just spent 12 months continually moving travellers off our parks and open spaces all over the borough at considerable cost to the ratepayer. There is a need, whether we like it or not, there is a need for a transit site in this borough. So we can direct travellers straight to it, allowing us to move them on straight away, not in weeks. In a nutshell, Mr. Mayor, it is down to poor legislation and laws, and these could be changed, but his three local MPs, who we have wrote to, certainly Marcus Jones, and his government, rather than crippling this council, I did say 40%, but now I know it's 44%, cuts in government grants, will make the matter even worse. So, yes, we've got our priorities right. You should get your priorities. You should get your priorities right at government. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Condon, you've been very patient. Your turn.
I'm never patient, Mr. Mayor. I have actually done a video on this. It's quite number heavy, but this question is for the portfolio holder for planning and development. I've spent the last 6 weeks trying to obtain evidence on which your new house building target of 10,040 homes in the borough over the next 20 years is based. This target equates to 502 extra homes each year. The consultants employed to produce the Joint Strategic Housing Market Assessment, GL Hearn, were originally employed to justify the Coventry Gateway project. They clearly state in their evidence that their evidence is from the Nuneaton and Bedworth forecast model, which was used then to produce the employment projections. Then in turn that was used to generate the housing target of 10,040. Sadly, there was a lack of evidence to justify their confidential methods to translate employment increase within the borough into an increase in housing requirement. Worse still, since 2011, we have both lost employment and working age population within this borough. I've had to resort to make a free information request to establish what information was delivered to GL Hearn to inform their modelling. I am still waiting this overdue response. The GL Hearn modelling, which released the Shadow Economic Prosperity Board, show the borough population growing by 910 a year, just to justify the annual housing target of 502. The real increase in housing is around 250 a year for the last 3 years. I've established that the current 2014 demographic-based requirement for housing from 2011 to 2031 is around 328 homes per year. And It even stated this in the table of GL Hearn's report, table 47. For the period until our plan goes to an inspection in public, we can legally set an interim housing target based around that 328 homes per year. And there is clear evidence that this is justifiable on the Borough Council's demographics. Given the lack of solid evidence for the 502 homes per year target, will you consider looking at a lower interim target and ask your officers or consultants to produce full evidence and a full evidence-based explanation of how they justify their unrealistic requirements? Thank you.
Councillor Alderton.
Mr Mayor, I'll bear in mind your diktat and I'll be very brief. Simple answer.
What's the diktat? It was a request.
Sorry, your request, Mr Mayor. The simple answer is no. I, for one, trust the officers of this borough to provide me and the public with whom they serve with all the necessary current evidence available. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Margrave.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I begin by wishing you a Merry Christmas? Can I share with my question is to the Leader of the Council. Can I share with the Leader in this Council that I've written to the Co-op as a member to ask them to hold a meeting to present to the staff and wider community the Board's current plans. These plans include closing stores and potential significant job losses. Members have not yet had a say on any of the proposals. A meeting would give an opportunity for members to vote on these plans. The Secretary, and on behalf of the Chief Executive, replied to me saying that no presentation will be given to members or staff prior to the AGM in May, at which point members of staff will have already lost their jobs and the Co-op will no longer be as visible on our high street. This issue affects staff just before Christmas, many of whom are residents, and will see the loss of one of the town's oldest societies. In light of what I say, can the Leader of the Council, who represents the local community and its residents, tell us whether he has had an explanation yet from Co-op bosses and the Board about their plans and the effect on staff and the High Street?
Councillor Harvey.
Mr Mayor, in relation to the first part of the question, I can confirm that the response received by the Managing Director on the 8th of October to his letter to the Chief Executive of the Co-op was as follows. I will obviously need time to give thought to the contents of your letter. However, I can advise that in terms of a meeting, my diary pressures are such that I would not be able to realistically schedule any time until the new year. We have had no further response since then, and the Co-op has indeed already started closing stores in surrounding towns. I understand, Mr Mayor, further to that other local authorities where Co-op stores are also affected have received similar responses to that received here, and it does seem that meetings are being avoided until after the fate of many of the shops is sealed. Mr Mayor, for any business to take this cavalier attitude to its staff and customers, not to mention locally elected representatives, is reprehensible, but for the Co-op, owned by its several thousand members, many of whom are our residents, such actions are without precedent. I can assure Councillor Margrave that we shall, as a council, continue to press the executives of the Co-op to meet with us and will do all in our power and remit to support local people, staff and members who are deeply affected by these decisions of the Board. I am sure, Mr Mayor, that many members of the Council, as well as local residents, must be sickened every time they watch the TV advert with the slogan, "The Co-op, there for you for life," only until the directors decide otherwise, it seems.
Thank you. Councillor Stroman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I ask the Leader why, at a time when our high streets appear in crisis, the Labour Council has chosen to increase daytime parking charges and thereby reduce still further the appeal of our town centres?
Councillor Alderton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I personally like shopping in our town centres. I don't believe they've lost any of their appeal. However, let's explore that for a moment. Because it seems that as soon as any crisis in our town centres is mentioned, this council automatically gets the blame. Yet, this was not this council who invented internet shopping. It was not this council that hiked VAT up to 20%, a tax on poorer people who pay the same amount for their shopping as anyone else. It was not this council that cut subsidies to the bus services to and from our towns. It is not this council who allows cars to freely drive around our town centres from 4 p.m, endangering the lives of pedestrians. It is not this council who has overseen the slowest recovery rate of any economy in the developed world over the last 5 years. It is not this council that is overseeing the stagnation in all wages, except for the very wealthy of course, across not just this borough but the whole country. It's not this council that controls huge corporations who decide to change their policies and where they decide to open shops or close them in some very high profile cases as we've just heard. It is this council though, under Labour, which has resisted out-of-town shopping centres, making sure all retailers wishing to come to our borough open up in the town. And we've heard about a few this evening from Councillor Harvey. Look, for example, at Tamworth, where they have Ventura Park, a shopper's paradise, I'm led to believe. However, this has been a severe detriment to their town centre, which has been virtually decimated. It's about time that the so-called opposition stop belittling and decrying our town centres and actually support this council. It's about time our local MPs stop attacking the residents of our borough in Westminster. Start supporting our people and towns and stop attacking this council when they can come back from London. Stop doing one thing politically in Westminster and saying a completely different thing in the local area. It's being proposed that car parking in our borough will be free after 6 p.m. to encourage the nighttime trades in our towns. So if residents and visitors come into our towns to visit Bedworth Civic Hall or the arts centres, or indeed one of our many excellent restaurants, despite Councillor Foster's ignorance of this issue, parking will be free in one of our many Parkmark accredited car parks.
Thank you. Right, item 8 is special urgency decisions. I'm informed that no decision has been taken.